Welcome to the Boomer Technician. It's the fall of 2025 and we're in a park here in Colorado. Usually I start out in the garage when I'm prepping for a road trip, but I can't take a road trip every week. So this week we're staying in Colorado. I've got family responsibilities and sometimes it's just nice to sleep in your own bed. But that gives me the opportunity to check out some Colorado activities, which I've been doing all this summer. And today we're going to share a couple of those events with you. There's car shows, there's cruises, there's car museums. And I met a very interesting man who is a car fan, and he has a very interesting story that I thought he'd like to share. So we're going to give him that opportunity today and then wrap things up and call it a week. So our first stop is at the Colorado Concours d'Elegance, which, as that banner shows, has been running for about 42 years. It's down in the southwest corner of Denver at a college campus, and it's a pretty nice setting. You're out on a nice grass. It was a nice cool day, a little bit overcast, so we didn't get cooked, and lots of cars there, and they were grouped. You can see that's a Porsche group there, and we have a Ferrari group here. And frankly, I don't know a whole lot about Ferraris, so we won't talk about them in any great detail. Here we have the Corvette section, and once again, a good turnout of those. The featured mark was the Mustang, so they were excited to have my Mustang 2 there. Now we're taking a look at the Porsche area. Gotta like that Targa. It's a nice looking car. A few more Porsches here, a few newer Porsches here. And the Corvair area, which was awfully well represented for a car that's been out of production for over 50 years. I suppose a number of people are surprised to see that Corvair pickup, but they built both a pickup and a van, so that was kind of special. Here's a very nice four-door, followed by, I'll walk through a bunch of Saabs. You can see we've got the Sonnet there, and a very old Saab there. I believe that was a two-stroke, that blue car. And then here's a bit newer Saab and the more recent models. Of course, towards the end, Saab was platform sharing first with a couple of European partners and then later on with GM using the Opel platform. But most of these are what we'd call true Saabs. There was also a classic row, quite a few classic cars. I think they had about 15 or 20. We didn't get to capture all of them, but here we can see a pair of very nice Packards. You can tell that from the tombstone radiator shell, as they called it. And this is where the Colorado Concours made its bones back in the day, and it's broadened out a little bit since then, but it certainly has a focus on the classic cars, and they certainly bring them out. Here was the lone Volvo I saw, which was kind of interesting, followed by some individual cars, this Gullwing Mercedes and this Allard Hemi-powered race car from the 50s. The Allard line was rather interesting. If it's a car that catches your eye, you might do a little research online and learn about its racing history back in the 50s. An American-made car, but a brutal chassis, a hard car to drive, but blindingly fast. Here's a nice Mercedes Pagoda, followed by this Monte Carlo convertible conversion. They didn't build a convertible in a Monte Carlo, but somebody put one together for us. And here's a very nice BMW. I've always liked these little coupes. And a great-looking Riviera, one of the final designs of Bill Mitchell, followed by a Triumph TR6. Well shown, presents very well. And here we are in the Mustang section. Actually, this is the Shelby section. They segregated the Shelbys off from the Mustangs, but I think they were both part of the featured marks. And then we've got the older Shelbys tucked over here, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at the Sole Survivor along with a bunch of Mustangs that showed up for the Mustang show. I'm a member of one of the clubs here in Denver, the Front Range Mustang Club, and many of the members brought their cars out. And we had a good mix. It's getting harder and harder to get the early Mustangs out. because in a lot of cases the owners are finding it tougher to get out and into the world. They've got a lot of age-related limitations, but we saw a Fox body there, and here's a SN95 era car, and the newer cars. Lots of newer cars show up. Of course, the great thing about a Mustang is you can put a classic in your garage and put a more recent model in your driveway and use the recent model as a daily driver because it's just a car and people can still fix it. In a lot of cases, you can have one that's still under warranty. There's a nice little red convertible. I've always kind of liked that model. I'm not sure exactly what this is, but it looks pretty racy. And so does this one. So my Mustang knowledge kind of fades away after about 2005. I'm trying to get kind of back up to speed now that I'm part of the Mustang Club in Denver. And I might get a newer model one of these days once we're done taking the Soul Survivor on its 50-state excursion. Boy, that little fastback there, those were fast cars in the day. They were kind of the final muscle cars before we switched over to the smaller and more economical Mustang II. And here's a couple of nice red cars. Mustangs always look good in red. And here's a couple of classics, and then the last of the first generation. This one is not quite as fast as that green car. It's a little bit newer. But it's time to wrap up the Mustangs and head over to the Shelby Museum in Boulder, Colorado. This is a rather amazing place as you take a look at all of the information on the walls and the vehicles here. For a museum, it's got a huge number of vehicles, and they're all amazing cars. There are lots of early Cobras here, lots of race cars, lots of racing memorabilia, and some significant cars from Shelby's past. Some of these cars are pre-production prototypes where they've done experiments with supercharging and the like, some of which showed up in the production cars and some of which never made it past the prototype stage. As we take a look at these lines of race cars, most all of them have been on the track. Most all of them have a racing history. And the folks running the museum can tell you the details of these vehicles. They've got this huge library full of information. And it's all genuine information. It's all got a connection to Shelby. We see their actual tire trailer and car hauler and equipment used by Shelby Racing Corp. Here are the cars that were on the track back in the 60s. We've got Dan Gurney's Cougar for some reason, a Thunderbolt from the drag wars of the 60s, and here's a very interesting sign showing all the wins of the cars present in the museum, which is just incredibly impressive. Here we've got a breakdown of all the components that went into building a Mustang GT350 back in the day. And here are shop equipment and parts and body panels that were all straight out of the Shelby factory back in California. And here we have engine components that came off of Shelby vehicles or were available as aftermarket components or were designed specifically for racing. And used in the Shelby vehicles. Lots of hand fabricated stuff here. It's just incredible. Here's the most original Shelby Cobra race car from the day. It is supposedly exactly as it was the last time it left a racetrack. And here we have a Daytona Coupe built by Pete Brock that upped the speed in the straightaways by about 17 miles an hour. Just an incredible car. There is a second building, and it's kind of devoted to the GT40 and the Le Mans race victories of the 60s, back when Ford wanted to take on Ferrari. And we've got a mural here sort of recalling that day with the cars that were on the track in Le Mans back that time in this row here. And just, as I said, an incredible museum. I had a great time visiting it, but it's time to wrap up the museum visit and move on to the car cruise. This is a bunch of images I took at the Golden Car Cruise, as you can see from the banner. This is a monthly event in the summer, and it draws folks in Golden out to sit on the side of the road and watch cars drive by. There's a lot of classic cars parked in parking lots, and there's lots of cars on the road just rolling along, letting people get a good look at them. We'll take a look at some of those cars, starting with this mid-70s Mazda RX-4 wagon, rotary powered, followed by a VW Thing, and I believe it was a Dodge Dart behind it. We've got a couple of exotics here, a Ferrari and maybe a Porsche 300ZX. We've got a street rod and a civilian car and an Avanti 2. Boy, I'm going to guess that's a late 70s, early 80s one. Here we have an Alfa and a Tesla rolling side by side. And then we've got a Chevy convertible followed by a 58 Impala coupe. And we'll call this a patinaed pickup. You can just sit on the side of the road at the Golden Cruise and take everything in as it just rolls by. Here's a C2 Corvette, probably mid-70s, and an early Pontiac Trans Am in white and blue. Fox body with 4 square headlights. That's a rare sight. Then we've got a Maverick and a Galaxy convertible. And then we're going to cut over to some cars in the parking lot, starting with a Soul Survivor and my buddy's A100 pickup, built on an extended chassis, so it's sort of a crew cab A100, and one of the club members' Daytonas, and a very nice little Cougar. This next one's an interesting car. It's a Volare made up to look like a NASCAR sportsman racer. I've actually put a link to that in the video description because there's an interesting history to it. And we'll do a little bit of road tripping here before we call an end to the Golden Cruise and move on to our next topic. Well, that wraps up our car event content. But as I said at the beginning of the video, I've got an interesting story to share with you. Met a gentleman, his name is John Stirling, and he's had some very major health issues. He's a car enthusiast. I met him at a car show, and he's in his recovery phase, but he's still maybe a long ways away from getting fully recovered. He's hoping he's going to make some further recovery as time goes on. But let's go ahead and take a listen as he shares his story with us. Yeah. All right, well, let's just, I'll let you tell your story about the West Nile, and, you know, if you need to back up,
yeah,
that's fine.
West Nile. So in 2023 in Lone Tree, Colorado, and Highlands Ranch, and all of Colorado, was a particularly bad West Nile year. And I had been going through chemo for leukemia, and I've been doing that for 20 years, yeah, and so on. So, and it's off and on, and everyone asks me if I'm in remission. Technically I am now, but I won't be in a few years. Yeah. And then I'll take the drugs, and then I'll be in remission again. Yeah. So, but it had brought down my immune system. And so 2023 was really bad for West Nile. And I ended up getting it. And ended up at Skyridge Medical Center right there. And was there for a month. Was there for 1 month before going to another hospital and another and another and another. I was in a coma for 2 months. And then I woke up with tubes everywhere. Yeah. I had the trach, I had stomach tubes, I had, you name it, I had it. I had all of that. And I woke up unable to talk and unable to move, yeah, including my arms. So, and that was probably November, December. So I got it in August, and it was November, December that I kind of woke up and so on. And they began the process of slowly pulling tubes out of me and seeing what I could do, seeing if I could eat, and being fed. I was pretty much fed and all of it. And so I did that until so I ended up at Skyridge Kindred Hospital, and then I ended up at Life Care Center of Littleton for a short stint, and then my insurance cut out.
Yeah.
And my insurance had screwed up, in essence had screwed up.
Yeah.
They thought that I had a broken hip. And yet I was fully paralyzed.
Yeah.
So, and they were about to send me home. And so I ended up going to assisted living for a couple months. And then we got all that corrected after many appeals with United Healthcare. And I went to a rehab place called Encompass, and then went back to Life Care and got to the point in which I could stand. And I had gotten all the tubes out of me by that point, thank God. And in June of 2024, I was released and I went home.
So you contracted West Nile in August of 2022?
2023.
2023, and then you were on your back, as it were, until June of 2024.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. More or less. I mean, I was sitting up and I had
but
some
you were
of
under
my
care
arm.
for that entire period of time.
I was definitely, and I absolutely needed the care for that.
Wow.
And your health is so very important. I mean, I even took myself somewhat seriously with my health. I worked out or a lot before. I mountain biked here on the bluffs.
Yeah.
4 times a week. I snowboarded, and now I really can barely walk with a walker.
Right.
So, yeah.
West Nile virus, how would you describe that disease medically?
So, you get bit by a mosquito, it gets in your blood, and if it gets past the blood-brain barrier, it infects your nervous system and your brain, for that matter. And for me, it affected my motor skills, and it can affect other parts of the brain too, and luckily that's not the case. So I feel like I have most of my faculties. I'm back to work. I don't have to go back to work, but I want to.
Right.
And I have teenagers and so on. So, yeah. So, but it affects your body and your entire nervous system. It, in essence, kind of it hurts it. It scars the brain and it hurts the nervous system.
Okay.
Very similar to results of polio. So if you had polio, and you were younger, you probably know that. So, yeah, that's about it.
Okay. You said you own a car?
So me and my ex-wife owned a '69 Mustang.
Okay.
And she got the Mustang in the divorce.
Okay.
And it's her family's.
Right.
So she should get it.
Right.
It's a '69. They bought it new. It's a '69 convertible 302. It had been sitting in the desert, in the 90s.
Okay.
In the 90s. And in 2001-ish, 2002, we bought the car, or we took the car.
Yeah.
At that point, and it was already in her name, and we restored that car. It's not fully restored.
Right.
it's mostly restored.
Mm-hmm. Do you attend a lot of car shows?
I am loosely slash affiliated with the Denver Mustang Club.
Okay.
And I've been affiliated with them since I met my best friend in middle school. His dad was into Mustangs, and I just have been, I know everybody in the Mustang Club, and they know me, and I was part of it, and I am in and out.
Sure.
So basically, yeah. My dad, my dad was really into vets.
Okay.
So I went against the grain when we got the Mustang and so on. But he came over and helped me put on the brakes and all of that kind of stuff. And I actually grew up wrenching on a '72 GMC truck.
Okay.
And I rebuilt the motor, rebuilt the transmission.
Yeah, that's the prettiest truck you have ever made.
Yeah, and it was my baby.
Yeah.
It was my baby.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and then I got rid of it and went to for college, and
Yeah.
and then I regret that.
Well, thanks for sharing your story. That wraps up today's video, and as I said at the beginning, I'm here in Colorado, sleeping in my own bed, which reminds me of something very important. No matter where you go, there you are. Welcome to the Boomer Technician. Welcome to the Boomer Technician. Welcome to the Boomer Technician. We typically start out, well, that wraps up our car-related event. That wraps up our car event-related footage.